Hello and welcome to Cosmic Commentary's Real Football Podcast, where we cater to football fans, young and old, big and small. We had a real blast today with our guest giving us the inside scoop of football in England actually being there. We talked about scary stadiums, size of the clubs in England, and of course we had a few regular topics like Manchester City's banning from European football. Will Gerrard get a medal? And of course, away days in England. A few stories thrown in there from around the world, and that was a wrap. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So today we have a story of a man who came from Tyneside, do they call it? The Tyneside of the river, anyway. He is spent most of his time running marathons, which is why he hasn't been on the podcast yet, and does travel around Europe a lot. Craig, welcome to the show. Finally, we've got him here.
No, thanks very much. No, it's I've been wanting to come on for a while. We live actually quite close to each other, so it shouldn't have taken long as it has. But no, glad to be here now.
And Cos is obviously here as well. Not one of his sick days.
No, not
no exams.
No
bit
exams.
Too early.
No sick days. No
sick
virus.
days.
No nothing. And it's great that you're here, Craig. It's the main event. So
yeah.
We've been wanting you to come for a while, and
Cos is particularly excited.
I'm definitely going to let you down, but
I have
we'll give it
a lot of questions.
Well, it's funny how when people are closer together, or just something is closer together, then it's just harder. Like, I could make it there. You know. There's a lot more.
It's any time. It's at any time. I can see any time.
Yeah, but if someone's like Deke's been on the show 3 times. He lives in WA. So.
Yeah, because it's that effort. The effort is made when you're here. Oh, it has to be done.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, welcome on. Before we get into, because we've got a few nice topics today, and obviously half a week of Premier League to get into as well. Nothing too interesting happened there anyway, but of course. Newcastle. Anyway, but right. So before we get into all that, a couple stories. First story, we'll go overseas and then bring it back.
You want to go overseas? Yeah.
Well, somewhere close to Cos's heart.
Yeah.
Italy.
I was very close.
Referee. Can you tell me because I don't know the context of this one.
He headbutted a goalkeeper. This was like in an amateur Italian football match, right?
Was it similar to that league where the coach got sacked for winning 29-0?
No, it's very different.
Okay.
The referee was involved here.
Okay.
And he was the one that got banned because he headbutted the goalkeeper. So during the game, right, he sent off the keeper he dismissed him. I don't know why, I didn't see it. Then after the game,
I don't think they had.
Well, they wouldn't have had
video.
Not in the lower
This is
leagues.
the level we're talking about.
And then after the game, the keeper went and sought out the referee to ask him why he got dismissed. That's his story. I don't know how. It wouldn't have been very nice. It would have been very emotional. Italians, they get emotional. And then the referee headbutted him and got banned for a year.
Inspired by Zidane, perhaps.
Inspired by Zidane, maybe, or he just lost it.
Maybe you wanted to be one of them, like the Mike Dean of the lower Italian leagues, who wants to be the celebrity, there for himself.
He's probably angry, but he's like, I don't get paid enough for this. Just leave me alone. I've done my job. just. And now he's been suspended. Suspended for a year. So. Someone looking to get into Guinness for the Guinness World Records. Yeah.
Where's this from? Because I don't even know where this country is in.
Well, this is from Egypt.
Egypt. There we go. We're still in foreign land.
The man is 75 years old, and he's looking to be a professional footballer, the oldest ever professional footballer.
I read this.
At 75 years of age.
That's
in
fair
Egypt.
play to him.
Yeah.
But in outfield, right? Not a goalkeeper.
Outfield.
See, because that's sort of cheating when you go behind in the goals.
He might be a keeper, actually.
He could be a keeper.
Yeah, he might be a keeper.
Because I know it happens in cricket, like when you've got these like old grandparent basically people. They stand behind the stumps, the wicketkeeper. Because basically the movement is limited. Although it's hard on the knees, but but they don't have to move around that much, and they'll say prolongs their career a little bit
behind the stumps.
That's what Inzamam ul Haq, the big Pakistani opener. I think at the end of his career he used to just try to hit boundaries, wouldn't run, and if he did have to run, he'd have a runner in with him.
Isn't he still playing?
Might be. I mean, that's probably why if he doesn't have to run. He just hits boundaries.
Oh, well, whenever Pakistan comes into the conversation for cricket, because they have players that, I don't know, their birth certificates aren't exactly on time. Let's just
they
say.
don't care for it. Yeah, they manipulate their age.
Yeah, but they start their under 19s career, or whatever, when they're like 20.
Well, they dominate the
or
under
24.
19s. They're the best.
But they still play until they're like, quote unquote 36 or something like that, which means they're actually 41 or something like that. Like Shahid Afridi, it turned out that he's 5 years older than he said he was, or something like that.
Yeah,
but he was still playing at like 38, so he was like 43
though.
or something.
Maybe that's a good thing. You know, you think you're younger. You know, you get a spring in your step. You know,
seems to work. You know.
Yeah.
But
they don't win. So.
But moving back into the island that is the UK.
Thank God, because cricket is not my strength.
Well, UK. Actually, I was going to talk more about cricket.
Oh, okay.
No,
you guys have a very nice conversation. I'll just
it's okay. It's not happening.
No?
All right. One more story. With last week, we made an error.
No, we didn't.
Because although,
we could
to
not
be
admit,
fair, all right, this was in a real article. So the helicopter man from Newcastle, the Newcastle game against in the FA Cup. So when I say
Oxford.
Helicopter,
against Oxford,
I mean the small helicopter.
Oh, that helicopter! All right, I think you're talking about. I'm thinking, oh yes, I know what you're talking about.
There was no actual helicopter. So turns out we mistakenly said that he got a stadium ban or something like that. But turns out that was an investigation. He didn't get banned. They didn't even know who he was yet. So there was the potential for a ban, and I was correct in saying that. They can give a stadium ban, but they're not going to give him they can't give him a life ban from football ever, which wouldn't be as bad.
Yeah, I heard stuff like that. He was going to be put on some sexual offenders register for doing this thing.
Well, you can't.
He was doing. Yeah,
well, if you touch yourself, I mean,
Well,
you can't really.
But the thing is, he wasn't. He was just letting it. Letting it fly in the wind.
Look, I didn't study it too heavily, but.
He was just very happy that
far too excited.
that Newcastle managed to get a last ditch winner over third tier opposition.
I mean, yeah,
90th minute.
Apparently, his little friend was very happy too. Obviously.
Hello, my little friend. But all right, so.
But yeah,
that's covered. Now, one of our topics for the day is the big guns from England, who Boris Johnson has praised for their their commitment to Brexit.
The commitment to Brexit, and it is Manchester City.
There was a satire article, by the way. Boris Johnson did not actually congratulate Manchester City for their commitment to Brexit. Although many people bought that because they thought it was actually legitimately possible, but he's not that. Anyway, Manchester City have been banned from European football for the next 2 seasons. Craig, any?
Yes.
Well, I know you've got plenty to say on this, but
yeah, no. I just I've heard a little bit about it. I know that they're appealing, and because Manchester City is sort of funded by sovereign state, it's probably going to have the best legal teams out there. I reckon. I don't know whether they have committed this misdemeanor, and someone I actually read somewhere that it was the transfer that might have sent them over the edge was what's his name, Wilfred Bony, who was a pretty mediocre striker, and I think they paid 25 million or something for him.
That was the one.
That was that
how
might
did you feel?
But that's because he didn't. I don't think he certainly wasn't a starter. And so if they have missed out on 2 years of Champions League because of this acquisition, this squad player that they got in, they'd be pretty annoyed about it. But no, I just can't see it standing up. I think it'll probably come to a middle ground where maybe they'll get a 1-season ban. But the interesting thing is it'll just be whether, because if it is upheld and it's a 2-season ban, whether all like the players who were in the prime like Sterling and De Bruyne etc. are going to hang around.
Yeah.
But the thing is with
that happened before, didn't it?
With Aguero and Silva, because they've sort of seen that, done it, and towards the end
that happened
of their
before,
career.
didn't it? Aguero and Silva. I think it had before the period in question. But before we go deeper into that, you said that if that was what sent them over the edge, they'd be very annoyed at the 2-year ban. Are you saying that if it wasn't, then they're quite okay with the 2-year ban?
Oh no! I just think it would just be particularly unfortunate if it was that one.
Definitely
mediocre striker.
Actually,
That's pretty funny for me.
Yeah. The funny thing is, there was talk. There was the same news satire website that created the article that created the helicopter man ban. What was it called?
The helicopters go.
Myth.
Okay,
myth.
Yep.
Also wrote an article that Liverpool had signed Gerrard for 1 week near the end of the season.
Yeah,
so
it's a great signing. It's a great signing. He deserves the medal, and they just can't do no wrong at the moment. Or Liverpool.
But the only reason I mentioned that
this isn't real, by the
is
way.
because I'm relating it back to Manchester City. Turns out he may not need to do that to get a Premier League medal because Manchester City getting this 2-year ban in the European competition. Apparently, if whatever actually happened, the Premier League has its own punishments to dish out to Manchester City. I don't know if you've heard about this, Craig, because you look a bit.
No. I don't know if this is the same. I heard that Gerrard was as quoted as when this story broke that he was very interested. I think that was his words. He was very interested in the outcome because he would potentially be the old slipping incident in that Chelsea game with Liverpool where they sort of threw away the title. I think Gerrard, despite having a glittering career, didn't win the Premier League, and I think that he might be hoping for some retrospective effect and that some of Manchester City's titles are nullified. And
it's just that one title actually, because if you go too far back, then Manchester United get a title as well, so that's no good, right? So we just want that one. Also, that title was the Aguero. That is an iconic moment in Premier League history, in English football history. That was one of the greatest title races of all time.
It was, and it was a great assist by Balotelli.
Great assist from Balotelli.
I take it where I get it, Mike.
Yeah.
Can you, just as a little aside, do you know who scored the goal when Gerrard slipped?
Oh yeah,
it was Demba Ba.
Ex-Newcastle man.
Oh yeah.
No, sorry.
No, ex-Newcastle legend for half a season.
He's a great player.
He
was good for Newcastle. I remember.
He was good for half a season. Then for the second half, he was awful. But they had Cisse for the other half of the season, and he went really well. And then Demba Ba started well again in the next season, and then I think he went to Chelsea. So so he did his first part of the season thing. Then he scored the goal against that iconic moment. But there's potential that Manchester City will get some sort of domestic punishment as well, where they get retrospective points. I don't know how that works. Does that?
I can't say. I think I just
actually
cannot
I
say
do
how
know
they
someone
would do
who
it.
might know something about this. So how does retrospective title taking work?
Well, in my experiences, right, they just stripped the title away. So Man City would be stripped, and it will go to Liverpool, who's finished in second.
I don't know this. I don't know the background, but I'm assuming it's something to do with the Italian league.
It is.
Oh, right.
Because after the now infamous Calcio Poli scandal, where this was before the 2006 World Cup.
So this is 2004-05, I think it was.
2004
or 5-6.
5-6 season.
5-6. There we go.
But it was going on for years.
Yeah.
Like senior figures in football clubs would ring up referees.
This is in Italy, by
and
the way.
bribe them to, and essentially bribe them to favour them in the matches and make decisions that benefit them.
Wow.
Just not obvious, but just little things. And then they were caught out and. Yeah, the titles were stripped. Juventus got stripped from 2 titles.
Oh.
Both were handed to Inter.
Well, were there, how many teams involved? 5?
Well,
6?
4 or 5. But Juventus got punished the most because it's Juventus.
Now tell them the kicker. So Milan got the titles.
Inter
right?
Milan got both titles.
Oh, Inter.
Yeah,
No,
Inter.
it wasn't AC.
No, it was Inter.
So Inter got the titles.
Yeah,
Wait, how did Inter get the titles?
because I'm assuming it's because they were the only ones that didn't get caught.
Right. And then
And I'm not going to say that they were innocent. They didn't get caught.
no,
That's
wasn't
basically what it was.
didn't they get caught after the thing period finished?
Yes, yeah, it came out after the statute
So
of
they did get
limitations.
caught, but just after the statute
Yeah,
of
so
limitations.
so they've got our titles basically.
You know what? I think I wouldn't be surprised if, like, after the limitations period finished,
Yeah,
a spokesman from Inter Milan came out and said, "Yeah, we did it." Yeah,
no, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
It's a bit like in cricket when a batsman nicks it, and then once he gets to the next delivery, he can't be given out. He's like, "Yeah, I smashed that.
it's very
Can't get me
similar.
out now."
Very similar, yeah. So I would assume that City would get stripped and
See,
it would go to Liverpool.
Italians and cricketers have a lot in common.
No, they don't.
Wow. Well, yeah, that would be like seismic news if that's happened. But I can't see it.
These sorts of things haven't happened in England, have they?
No.
Like, in Italy,
But it's a
it's happened
different
before.
kind of quote unquote cheating. I mean, like it's a word that gets thrown about a bit too loosely.
Well, it's not as bad as what Italy did with the referee. This is financial fair play.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And
it's
it's something that was
completely
made up. Basically at the start of that period. I think that's why that period counts from then,
Yeah.
as opposed to the previous few years when they were playing against. Because there was no financial fair play before 2012, I assume, which is why this retrospective ban only goes from 2012-13 onwards, which includes that very, very famous season.
It'll be fun if they did.
Would you want that to be the one Premier League title you win, though? Like, is that
I
won a retrospective ban Premier League title?
Well, it's not about us, Mike. It's about. It's not
it's
about
Gerrard.
us. It's about Steven Gerrard, and he's very interested.
Ooh.
So it sounds like he does want the Premier League medal.
Another thing, then also James Milner will swap out his Manchester City title for a Liverpool title this season. So that'll be another interesting, because James Milner was playing for Manchester City back then. He's going to get a title this season because it's as good as done.
Yeah.
Sterling will have an extra Premier League medal to his
he
list
will,
as
won't
well.
he? Yeah.
Sturridge will have a Premier League, another one as well. I think he won one with Chelsea as a bid part player. So like there'll be another one for him. There's just a few interesting characters in there that'll get Premier League medals. Lucas Leiva potentially.
Potentially, yes.
I think he was in that.
Was there. He was there then. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is all these
He could get-
old school Liverpool legends.
The way Lazio are going in Serie A, he could get 2 in a year.
Mignolet will get one. And Karius will not. So Karius sort of came in that period in between. Anyway, enough on that retrospective thing. So yeah, there's the potential of all that coming through. I'm with Craig. I don't think it'll go through. However, it does open up a little thing interesting, because the appeal that's going through, if it doesn't come through before the Europa League qualifiers begin, when the English teams start playing in them, then it'll stay for that season, because the teams from England that are playing in Europe will depend on whether or not Manchester City is playing in Europe. So if it, and from what I heard, for the appeal to sort of the appeal process will not be over until after that period starts. So I think there's a good chance that for at least one season, Manchester City will not be in Europe.
Yeah.
Which means the top 4 race has become a top 5 race. And Sheffield United could, in this game week coming up, because they're playing against Brighton at home, and Tottenham and Chelsea are playing with each other. They're the 2 teams above them. Sheffield could hopscotch them into 4th place. Isn't realistic.
Isn't that crazy, Craig? I mean,
No, it is.
Sheffield.
I was just going to say that, like, Sheffield United go, because usually the teams who are coming up, you do struggle, and you can see that even with teams like who throw a lot of money in it, like Aston Villa and Fulham last season. It doesn't just throwing money at a problem doesn't make it happen. It's like particularly that, like, Wolves have been the exception, but yet they've been extremely well funded and it's been done very well. But Sheffield United is it's incredible how well they've done, just given that a lot of them players were playing in League One.
Yeah,
a couple of
they're
years ago.
playing with the League One team,
they've kept the same squad, haven't they? And it's just been that consistency,
that core
that stability
from League One.
Like that's it.
They got the opposite way of Watford, basically.
I just like a lot of the players in there. You will definitely not be household names like Billy Sharp and
Lundstrom is
Lundstrom's,
a mainstay in my
Fleck.
fantasy team. Fleck,
He's been
decent
very good actually this season. But yes, it's they've done extremely well, and for them to, it would be a magnificent achievement if they got into the Europa League. But if they got into the Champions League, because like Bramall Lane is a yes. It's not like if you go to the Tottenham Stadium at one end, which is probably one of the best in the world. Bramall Lane, where Sheffield United play. It's not. I'm not going to say it's one of the worst in the world, but it's not very good. It's very old school.
It needs a touch-up, you say.
It's just incredibly intimidating, and I think it's one of them ones where like an old Highbury style ground where the stands.
Now, when you say intimidating, do you mean intimidating in the sense that it may collapse at any moment, or?
Yeah, I definitely. It's probably a bit of that, and then the fans as well.
It's like a stadium from the streets, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's just
it really is. It's like a real old school one.
Headstrong
pillars so you have restricted views.
So we finally have a local from the heart of the belly of the beast, and now we're getting all these insights now. But before we go a bit further onto this, transition into one of our topics for the day, the size of these clubs in England, because obviously as foreigners, and by foreigners I mean me and Cos and anybody else who's been on this podcast. We haven't been to England, or we've been to England. I've been to England anyway, but haven't been to these stadiums, haven't been into the atmosphere. Haven't really gone into the atmosphere of this. Cos went to Italy, which was interesting.
I did go to Italy, yeah.
But
that was amazing. But
there's a different overlook of which clubs are actually big in England, and the list is quite. For foreigners,
I've got the list here.
I can see a little bit of like where it comes from, but Cos and I have.
I've got a lot of questions about this.
Well, Cos and I have done a lot of research into English clubs over the last 3-4 years. We've learnt a lot, and we've tried to pass on our knowledge. I just want to say,
we don't profess to be experts.
Before we get into this controversial graph, what would you call it? That Craig has presented to us.
Call it
Exhibit A, we'll call it.
A tiered structure.
We might throw it up on
of the
Facebook.
size of football clubs. Yeah, we could.
But
but the categories first. But
hold on. But I did want to just say, because while we were still not too far removed from the topic,
itching to ask questions.
I know you. Don't worry. I'll let you go straight through this. But when we were talking about Sheffield, right, and Wolves, I had the understanding that Wolves were quite a big club. Right, that was my understanding, and that was even though they weren't in the Premier League, and they were not that long ago still in the Premier League. They went down to League One, came back up, and now they've done like a Southampton basically. When Southampton came back up, and they were very strong for the first few seasons, and then they sort of fell away. But according to your graph, Craig, Wolves are pretty low down the list.
Well, they're listed as a medium
size. So just go to categories, Cos.
Well, the categories are massive, and we've got in the massive
only
category,
4 clubs.
Well, Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester United, and Chelsea. No problems there. That seems pretty reasonable and normal to me. Then there's very big. I've got questions now. I have big
There's
questions.
4 clubs in that too.
There's
right?
4 clubs in that.
Yeah.
Aston Villa. Okay, I can see that. I can see that. Man City. Yeah. Okay. Now look,
I don't.
Well, they've got to.
They're only in that because currently they are owned by.
Well, they're big now, so here we go.
They would have been medium.
They're very big. Very
well,
big.
actually, would you agree that they would be
big.
medium if not the takeover?
Man City,
or are they quite big?
Man City before the takeover were they were probably like similar to what Newcastle are now, up and down.
I would have thought they were lower than Newcastle.
Well, they were always the poor. the poor neighbour to Manchester United.
Yeah.
So Man United had so much
Like the
success in
Everton
nineties.
to Liverpool sort of thing.
Yeah,
Except less than that, because Everton has been they actually have been successful in the past. so.
The biggest thing that Man City were famous for before the takeover was that the Gallagher brothers from Oasis supported them. And that really was
Went for
they had. If you look at the team before the takeover, let's think about some of the players. They'll have probably had people like.
Did the Gallaghers make
Richard-
substitute appearances sometimes? Was it that?
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised. But they'll have had players like Richard Dunn, probably. Who's the striker? Sean Gorter. It was
Many of you at this point will be saying, "Who are they?" And
yes,
you're
exactly,
correct.
exactly. So Man City were. I'm not going to say a nothing club. They were a reasonably sized club in Manchester.
So
But-
would it be fair to say Wolverhampton similar level, or was Wolves worse?
but back then, I would say, you could probably say like
When Wolves were in the Premier League,
because what you say, this is a source of age-old arguments. What constitutes a big club? And in a big club, I would say it's partly the size of the stadium, the following that they get, and then you've got to put in like success trophies, how long they've been
history
around.
and-
Because you could say like, who are these clubs? Like I don't know nothing about the German, like not the German leagues, but these like the Red Bull Leipigs, who were sort of
That-
new creations of
yeah,
a club. And
PSG as well.
PSG, that's
Do you know that they were made in the 70s?
Yeah.
This is it. So our PSG like like a big club. I don't think. The clubs
Well, now.
that I like,
They are now, yeah.
they are now. But the clubs, I don't think the support for PSG will be as fierce as a lot of these more regional. Well, the clubs that have a lot of history, because there's nothing really. It's PSG is just they play in the France National Stadium.
That
And the-
club
and-
was
and-
basically made to be sort of like, all right, you're going to be a super club in France. That's
That's it.
That's why they made
But
it.
I'm going to we'll get back on topic. Back onto
Yeah.
to Wolves. Wolves, I've always had like a soft spot for Wolves because they're again. I'm big on grounds, and Molineux, I've always liked it. Always like 30,000 Midlands, solid, good fan base.
Okay.
I've got a mate
Okay,
who another like an English boy
Yeah,
who lives out here.
This was my
This was-
perspective of
Yeah.
what
No,
Wolves
because
was like.
and I'll just this chart which will be posted on the
on the
group.
Facebook page, on Instagram.
The veracity is it's not. I think it's been done slightly tongue in cheek, but there is some morsels of truth
All
on
right,
it.
so there's some more teams in this big
is,
group.
just to mention the tongue in cheek thing, there is because the last two categories are tin pot and shouldn't be in the football league.
Yeah.
But anyway,
That's a bit
I
harsh.
digress. Now, there's two clubs here that you've said are very big: Leeds United and Nottingham Forest.
So this isn't
Yeah.
made
Right.
by Craig, by the way. This is something that Craig
This
found
is-
somewhere.
Yeah, I
Oh,
just
you found it?
I just
Yes.
found it on.
He didn't
some-
make
Okay, well, you can help
But
explain.
he just
So these are very big, but then you've got big clubs, Newcastle and Tottenham. How is
on the
Tottenham?
same.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
how is Tottenham not bigger than Nottingham Forest?
Wait. So what was the second biggest category?
It was very big.
Yeah, but the
And
four
then-
teams that were in it.
The four teams are in were Aston Villa, Man City,
Mm-hmm.
Leeds, and Nottingham Forest.
All right.
Then you go down to the big category.
Yeah, look, Nottingham Forest.
and you got Newcastle and Tottenham in the big category, as
Yeah.
well as Huddersfield, which I don't understand.
Huddersfield,
Huddersfield's in the
No,
big
that's
category.
that's not right.
That's not right. Yeah.
Clearly.
So,
That's a glitch.
There is some similarities in this.
A typo.
so how is Tottenham in any way, shape, or form not bigger than Nottingham
All
Forest?
right. I guess the better question would be, why is not what possible other than the 2 European Cups? Because we've been through this. They won 2 European Cups, but they've only won the league once, so they can't be that big. Where is this coming? Do they have a big fan base?
You know,
What's the?
You know, they do have big fan base, big following, nice ground, and I think there is. They've had European success. They had Brian Clough managing them in the will that have been
All right.
the 80s,
How about
90s.
this? Let's compare them to Newcastle. All right. In terms
Nottingham
of following,
Newcastle have got a big following.
Bigger following, yeah.
But so not
But Newcastle do have a very big following, so
not Nottingham Forest and then there's like Notts County. There are other teams in Nottingham. Nottingham's not a particularly big place, but I think part of the reason that'll be there is because they're a traditionally big club, decent following, good ground, but they've been, like Leeds, they've been out of the top tier for a very long time. Tottenham, and I'm not going to get this back into Tottenham until... I know Daniel Levy, who's the owner, chairman, he's been around for quite a while now. But they've just been very well run over the last probably over the last 10 years. And this is like Newcastle fans have compared the position with Tottenham, which is a very well
comparison.
but which is a very well run club, to Newcastle, which is a very badly run club. And the difference
not as badly as Manchester United, but close.
So Tottenham is essentially has had a stratospheric rise over the last 10 years or so because it's been well run, and they've invested into the youth academy, they've invested into the stadium, scouting network, and it's come. So they've had until recently they've had a very youthful squad, which has progressed. They've got one of the best stadiums probably in the world now, whereas starting back, White Hart Lane, which was Tottenham's ground, and St James's Park 10 years ago, there was only one winner. Like Newcastle's ground was one of the best grounds in Europe, but whereas Tottenham invested, Mike Ashley, the owner of Newcastle, has not invested a penny, and so it is in exactly the same state. And
I heard he's doing plenty of investments into his t-shirts and
into Sports Direct and his other retail.
Getting Rio Ferdinand to advertise on his behalf.
But it is interesting that you bring that up, Craig, because I remember when I was a kid, Newcastle was like a top 4 team, like really contending, and Tottenham were just mid-table, lower mid-table.
Exactly,
and it's just completely reversed now.
Yeah,
I think it's gone more than reversed.
Completely reversed. Yeah.
But
more than reversed. Yeah.
But that's it. The Newcastle era was in the early Premier League years. When I grew up watching, like first getting into football.
Just to clarify a point before we get, has Newcastle won a title?
No,
a top division title, not a Premier League, obviously, but
the last trophy.
Was the championship.
The last trophy we won was 1969. Was the UEFA? It was the equivalent of the now Europa League, the UEFA Fairs Cup.
But Newcastle have won the first division, haven't they?
What, like the champion, the second tier?
The first tier?
No,
they've not. They've never won.
Never won a Premier League. They've won an FA Cup.
Sunderland have won.
So
they've won. I think they've won 2.
Well, at least you won the second division a couple.
So we've won.
You've won it a lot of times.
Haven't gotten relegated. We got promoted back in 2009, won the championship, and then we won it.
You continue this conversation.
We won again.
See this with my own eyes.
No. But Newcastle are perpetual underachievers. We have not.
Yeah.
There was the season in the 90s when we had a 13-point lead over Sir Alex Ferguson's Man United and proceeded to capitulate, implode, and we give away that lead, and it preceded the famous Kevin Keegan meltdown when he says, "I would love it if we beat them, love it," and yes, it still irks a lot of Newcastle fans to this day that was as close as we had such a good team then, and it just didn't happen. Fell by the wayside. Unfortunately.
Well, I looked at the results of that game. Newcastle, because Kevin Keegan in that rant he said something along the lines of, however many goals you score, we'll score more, or something along those lines. But the first part of the season they got him into that place. They ground out a lot of 1-0s and few just tough results where they weren't trying to outscore the opposition. They were just, No. And then he started to go, oh yeah, well we can score as many as we want, and that's why defence.
The Kevin Keegan era, and this is why it's so difficult for Newcastle fans to bear the current state of football, where we have 30% possession, lowest possession rates in the whole of Europe, I think it is, but and we have 3 strikers who've scored about 2 goals between them all season. But then in the Kevin Keegan era, the idea was it was all out attack. We didn't have a particularly good defence, but we had some amazing attacking players, and there would be a lot of 3-0s, 4-3s, 4-2s. It did not matter.
I
but we would
respect
score
that.
more.
I respect that. You playing to your strengths.
Yeah, no, and that was
that's what it was.
back then we were a lot of people's second team, affectionately known as the entertainers, and it was a great time to be alive.
So now to clarify some stats here, Sunderland have not won 2 titles; they've won 6 titles. So they are actually they are the 6th most successful team. Newcastle have won 4. Craig,
They haven't won the Premier League.
Not the Premier League, but I'm saying the First Division. 3 of them in the 1900s. So we've got 04, 05, 06, 07, 08, 09, and 26, 27. Craig, you're missing out here. You weren't alive then, so don't be too surprised. But that's right. Your team has won the First Division 4 times. He's looking at this in disbelief. What my team's won something.
Am I cracking up here? I don't think we've never won anything.
Yeah, you
Maybe I'm just thinking of my lifetime. I certainly know the last trophy that we won was in 1969, which was too long ago.
Yeah, well,
apart from the second tier,
which also
trophies,
wasn't in your lifetime. So.
Which wasn't. So yeah, the closest I've been in my lifetime was that 90s time when we nearly won the title, and since then we've had a couple of FA Cup finals. I think late 90s. Other than that, no major trophies. So it's very disappointing, and I fear I shall never see us win a major trophy in my lifetime. But you never know; we might get taken over by a Saudi billionaire, and it'll all get better.
If you turn to Italy, you'll see a team that wears the same colours, and you can it's Newcastle, the champions.
Well, it is
8 years
similar.
straight. 8.
Well, 8 straight.
8 straight. Yeah.
It may not be 9.
It'll come to an end. Man City's winning this week, this season.
Man City,
yeah. The Man City, Leicester, Lazio.
Yeah,
Lucas
Lazio, they're the team to beat at the moment. I would have thought.
That's play out through everyone.
Yeah.
Actually, that was an interesting result, but I don't want to go too far into that. Cos, just a little more on that list. Do you still have it there?
I have it.
Because you got more questions. I know you've got more questions.
Well, I do have more questions. Going down to the bottom, Craig, of the teams that should not be in the Football League. Now, I can't imagine these 2 clubs are small.
Wait. Is this Red and Milanese club, or
what are we talking about now? I don't understand what you're on about.
Bournemouth.
No, not Bournemouth. We've been well versed on how small Bournemouth are,
but not on this podcast. So we will touch on Bournemouth.
We'll get into it. But just before, there's a category should not be in the Football League. There's 2 clubs here that I don't think are small, just from the outside looking in. Cardiff and Swansea.
No, that's completely.
No,
wrong.
that's completely. My
wrong.
theory is that this guy is a mad Englishman. He's like Welsh clubs should not be in the Football League.
That's what it must be.
It has to be that.
That's the only reason, because
which is a fair point.
They're both decent sized. Cardiff, in particular, are a decent sized club. They're a decent sized club, and they've had a little bit of time in the Premier League over recent years.
Yeah,
as of Swansea, to be fair. So that's completely wrong.
Yeah, well, they've worked their way up, because they had to come in through, was it 4th Division or?
Yeah, I don't think so.
From League 2,
yes.
Which is still, I mean, I guess quite high, but and I think a lot of people are still bitter about that they, when they entered the English league system, that they took the place of 2 English clubs, and sort of English people are very proud about their culture and their things, and there was something you mentioned before about PSG not having a history and things like that. We actually talked about this, I think, in the last episode.
Yeah, we did.
That other, like England and other countries, don't do football the same way, right? Because in England there are 4 leagues of professional football. That's for starters, right? In other countries there might be 2, 3 might be pushing it, but like after that it's just sort of villages and
Italy has 3, just as an example.
3 professional.
Yeah.
And in the third one, they're like half the teams aren't professional, are they?
Some of them aren't.
Yeah.
No,
So they have teams in the 3rd league which aren't professional. That's Italy. That's one of the bigger footballing nations. So there's not many clubs, like even in the 1st division of many foreign leagues, that they don't have much of a history, or in terms of winning anything, because they've got the juggernauts, they've got the Juventuses, And then, of course, the two greatest clubs
Well,
in European history,
Yeah.
Celtic and Rangers.
Yeah, they're the best.
Because
But
they're...
English football is actually amazing when you think four leagues of professionalism, and you've got all those stadiums, and they don't share their stadiums. Oh,
No.
there is no.
Nobody shares.
Nobody shares their stadium.
Not even teams from the
from the
fourth
same
division.
city. Even from the same city, they don't share their stadiums.
No, they'll only do it. It's in rare. There was Wimbledon used to play at Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace's ground.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So it does happen on rare occasions, but
In
usually
London.
yeah, exactly right. But usually it's everyone has their own stadium, and yeah, it's an incredible amount of stadiums. A lot of them have like a lot of character. Some of them are really small.
Character,
Some
what a
of them-
great
so-
word.
Some of them are big.
Yeah.
Right out of Brendan Rodgers' vocabulary. A lot of character.
Well, and when you say character, you could probably say when you go into these stadiums fearing for your life,
It needs-
they might collapse.
These patches here and there. I heard Old Trafford's falling apart actually. But yeah, like it's just a quite a like.
Have you been in any scary situations yourself, Craig?
Oh, I have
Well,
indeed.
are you talking about scary in terms of the
In terms of
crowd
just
or
in,
the
yeah, in terms of the crowd,
or the stadium collapsing?
not the crowd. Like,
Okay.
I don't expect the stadium to
Because
be
because Craig was saying that there are some moments where you're thinking, is
no,
this
but
going
the
to hold?
crowd. So, in your experiences as an English football fan, what's been your most fearful moment in terms of
Well,
supporters?
there's a couple that spring to mind, and one that goes back to the charts that I didn't say. Leeds United.
Yeah, well,
They're sort of my second. I've got a bit of. They're sort of my second team because I used to live in Leeds for 5 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
okay.
I didn't know about this one.
I spent a lot of time. Went to university in York, and then I lived in Yorkshire for about nigh on a decade.
You're gonna have to fill me in Leeds, York. Like,
So they're very close to each other.
Okay.
York is
actually, which part of England is that in? Like,
Yorkshire is
Yorkshire. So it's technically like north, but Newcastle's northeast, further north. It's far north as you can get.
Okay,
before
so
you get
it's
to
sort of
Scotland.
like mid north.
Yes.
That makes sense. So it's close to the mid part
So
of England.
so Leeds is sort of
but then
east, and then you go across the Pennines and you get to Manchester and Liverpool.
so Manchester's not part of York, but they're close.
Sort of.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
like
Well, Manchester's more north, aren't they?
Well, Leeds and Manchester are
It's,
close.
it's sort of just
Okay.
it's like it's a like.
Oh, so that's pretty far north because
Ma-
Manchester's
yeah.
quite north.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like Manchester, Liverpool are on the west. York, Leeds are on the east. You
On
go
the
further
east.
north and you get to Newcastle.
Okay.
So Leeds is it's a football club. Got a lot of history. They had like back in the 90s, they had couple of good. They had Harry Kewell and Mark Viduka
Yeah.
playing for them.
That's what
Champions League success.
A lot of Australians like
yeah,
Leeds.
that's what got me into Leeds.
yeah, and that's it. They're a really, really good club. They had some fantastic players.
And they've got a great song which hates on every single team in the Premier League, pretty much. From my, are you familiar with the lyrics of the song?
Remind me.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I can't remember the lyrics off the top of my head, but I just remember that they rip into Liverpool and Manchester United and Tottenham
Arsenal,
and Arsenal. Like, I didn't even think
Nah,
Tottenham was worth talking about, but
Leeds are renowned for the
being despised.
yes, and I think they revel in it in that
Yeah.
sort of. And the other thing that comes up is that Leeds, whenever there's this Facebook group called Football Away Days, and it's usually just pictures of, it'll be like Scunthorpe against Fleetwood Town or something on a Tuesday night,
So
and
this
it'll
would not happen anywhere else in Europe.
and it'll have a picture of the away fans who were there on that night, and it's particularly more if it's like sort of, I'm just picking two extreme examples. If it was some like Plymouth who were in the far southwest of the country,
They're
who were
in
playing
what?
Sunderland.
They're in League Two, the 4th division, I think. Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
The
Third or
League,
fourth division.
Yeah, the League One and League
They
Two.
pop up every now and then in the League Cup.
But if they played, say, like Sunderland in the northeast, that is, I don't know how many hundred, but that's a long way.
That's a fair trip.
So if
yeah.
you went there on a Tuesday night, after, like, you would pretty much have to take 2 days off work to go to that game, because it would take you. It would really, to do that distance driving, it would take probably 6 to 7 hours. And then some people do it; they'll go to the game, and then they'll drive straight home through the night and go to work, and then that's what. So
Oh,
like when
wow, that is-
like when you say like support, and this will be usually
that is
often terrible
dedication.
football as
This
well.
is one of the greatest examples of English football culture. It is just
Well,
madness, dedication.
I tell
to-
you, Italians would never drive them.
No.
They'd do it for food. But they would not do it for.
The funny thing is,
for
you say this long 6-7 hour drive,
Mm.
right? In Australia, you wouldn't even reach the next city in that time. So
Well, this is it. But
Yeah,
but you have to get us back onto your original question. I haven't forgot the scary because I would have a story on this.
Yeah,
But
we
one
do-
of the things when I get homesick, my brothers, away trips are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
If you go to like the home grounds, pretty much everyone sits down. You'll sing along with some of the songs, but there'll be pockets of the stadium, like in Manchester United, it's the Stretford end, in Liverpool it's the Kop, in Newcastle
Yeah.
it's the Gallagher's. There'll be certain areas of the stadium where the singers go, where if you
Yeah.
want to have a sing song, you go there. And that's a bit I generally like to go. But if you go to an away ground, you get the hardcore support. You'll probably get 2,500 people. They'll go to
So those are the diehards that travel with the team.
so they travel the same, but and usually it's hard to get away tickets. So it's usually season ticket holders and you have to get a certain amount of loyalty points that you get from
Yeah.
years of sort of being a season ticket holder. So you go down, and it's great. If it's a one that's like sort of, my brothers went on one, and I was really jealous because I wanted to do it, but it was like Newcastle against Southampton, and you know that to get like this was last season, two awful teams, like you know that there's not going to be many goals in it, like terrible standard of football, but they were sending me Snapchats and stuff at like 3 a.m. when they were going to get on the bus to go down, and these buses will not be like luxury courses. They'll be like pretty basic, horrible buses. They'll be lucky if they have a toilet on there, which will probably be like a cesspit. But the other feature of these away trips are £1 cans of Carlin, which are usually is a horrible lager that you get in England. Ubiquitous in every pub, but when you're on the buses, it's usually lukewarm, so it tastes even worse than it would if it was cold.
isn't that how the English drink their beer?
That's true. It's true.
It's
But
almost like they're challenging you even more just to get down there. It's like,
so the thing is, you go on these trips and you be having these horrible cans all the way down. So by the time you get there, you've probably been on the bus for 6 hours. You get to the game. You watch probably terrible. Like I think the Southampton one was a 0-0 draw, and then and because they've got such a long journey,
Not one of those exciting 0-0 draws.
no, not an exciting, like a really like worst of the worst 0-0 draw while you're questioning your will to live. But then I've seen them because I've met my brothers when they're on these trips, and you pretty much the game finishes. There's no like going to the pub after having a bit of a social. You're straight back on the bus and then back up, and then so it's a long day. You could be out the house for like
from Newcastle to Southampton. That's a long
it's a
trip.
trek.
Yeah.
It's a trek. But just so I don't forget on the scary
bit.
scary
Yeah,
bit.
We haven't even gone to the stadium yet.
Yeah.
So Leeds was actually one of the. I remember I got tickets because I was at university in York, and must have been, I think it was 2003. Newcastle were pretty decent at the time. Leeds were on a downward spiral, and then I got
Happy
tickets
days.
from a friend who was a Leeds fan.
Yeah.
So I was sitting in. I got a ticket for Newcastle fan in the Leeds end, and it was. The atmosphere was toxic. Like Newcastle were playing fantastic. I think Shearer definitely. We had Alan Shearer playing for us, who was one of the greatest strikers Newcastle have ever had.
Well, the Premier League has ever had.
Oh, he's absolutely brilliant. He was lethal back then, and I think he
Yeah.
certainly scored 2. I can't remember if he got a hat, but Newcastle ended up winning 3-0.
He's not so lethal in the pundits box, but yeah. Newcastle 3-0.
And honestly, I was in the middle of these Leeds fans, and it was really one of them things where you're just thinking, I cannot, like, if you inadvertently cheer or anything like that, you were just fearing for your own safety because it was just a horrible. I think that might have been the city the season they got relegated. Another time I went.
Yeah, they'd be pretty hostile
the
then.
explosives were flying.
Oh, it was, like if you got rumbled to be
Probably
an
not the only thing that was flying.
Did you have like your Newcastle shirt under a jacket?
No,
or something?
no, I think-
you didn't, no risks at all.
nothing
Yeah.
like that. But that's another time I managed to
Did you
get
wear
to,
a white shirt just for safety?
yeah, I think it was. I just went in, just
It's
nondescript.
interesting you brought just before you go on to the next. But when I went to Juventus and Inter, the Inter match in Milan, and as a Juventus fan, I'm like, well, I can't because I was sitting with the ultras, not just the.
Wow.
I was with the ultras, the Inter ultras, and they were going nuts. Like, I'd never been in that toxic atmosphere when, Juventus players just walk onto the ground and the amount of booing and whistling and just expletives coming out. I'm like, whoa.
Is that what? Did they have the flares and everything?
Oh, yeah, the flares are right around me. Yeah. Well, and they were, I didn't mind the flares. I thought that was a nice touch to the game, but it was scary. And I'm like, well, luckily, right, I bought an Interscarf and I had it draped around me for my safety. And when Juventus almost scored, I did not get off my seat. I was just, if you saw me, I was angry, but on the inside, I was smiling. Yeah.
So that was like me with you with the Richmond fans.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. But anyway, go on your story.
No, just one very other quick one. We got tickets for a Newcastle Sunderland derby at the Stadium of Light, which is Sunderland Stadium.
So we've been through Newcastle, Southampton, Newcastle, Leeds. Now we're going to Newcastle, Sunderland. One of the biggest
rivals for Newcastle.
derbies in European football, possibly.
Yes, it's a big one. I'm going to be biased, but it's always a good day.
No, it's in the top 5, I think. I'm quite.
The atmosphere will be incredible at those games.
Quite easily.
It's absolutely incredible, and the police often the
Even
timing of the game would